The bandwidth for this episode of Gun Guy Radio is sponsored by the Firearms Radio Network. FirearmsRadio.tv.
Welcome to episode 96 of Gun Guy Radio. This is a podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Chick Challen, and this is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. Brownells helps make this episode of Gun Guy Radio possible. Selection, service, satisfaction. Find it all at Brownells. Go to gunguyradio.com/satisfaction. Well, a few announcements here before we get going. First, I apologize for the intro and outro here. I have a little bit of a cold. Might sound a little bit funny here, but I have a great interview lined up this week that I actually recorded prior to my cold, so it should sound a little better. First off, I have a shout out here and kind of a sad farewell to our photographer and Gun Guy Radio episode artwork designer. So Kirby. Kirby's been designing the artwork for the individual episodes of Gun Guy Radio now for quite some time. He's been doing just an amazing job. Really, really sorry to see him go. He had some family matters that have prevented him from continuing on, and just wanted to really thank him for lending a hand, volunteering for so long, and we're going to miss you, Kirby. You're a great part of the Firearms Radio Network team, and we hope you can join us sometime in the future. The Gun and Gear Review Podcast had the pleasure of recording an episode as the guest host with Ryan Cross and Peter, a FI contributor, last week. So if you haven't checked that out, I think it went pretty well. It's more of the panel discussion show that we're trying to form the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review show into. Like I said last week, Devin has been promoted to the senior producer, and we're looking for some hosts for this new format. People with kind of a wide variety of experiences: handguns, rifles, shotguns, competition, reloading, gunsmithing. Doesn't have to be all of those, but maybe if you've dabbled in a few of them and have some experience, receiving actually a lot of calls, I guess, answering this call for hosts. So we're going to run starting next week, we're going to run a few trial, I guess, gun and gear review shows, and just to see which personalities work well with the show. And what I'm doing here is I'm kind of looking for a person to kind of take the head role for the hosting duties by having different trial episodes here. We're also switching the Firearms Insider Gun and Gear Review podcast to a hangout, so it's a video show that is similar to This Week in Guns, so it releases in video format and audio format. And some people, we might find that technology they have or their internet might limit them, and they might not be able to, participate long term in the show. So, well, it'll be real interesting. I've never really done this before, so I'll be kind of like Survivor. Let's see which hosts make it to the end. Which host earns immunity? I really appreciate you guys emailing me, Jake at firearmsradio.tv. Shoot me an email there if you're still interested, and you haven't yet sent one. If you think hosting the Gun and Gear Review podcast sounds like fun to you, shoot me an email, Jake at firearmsradio.tv. Before we get into the main topic, I'd like to announce the winner for the Duluth Trading Company $100 gift card giveaways. So if you missed last week's episode, we're giving away $100 gift cards from Duluth the next 4 weeks. I think it's every Sunday before Christmas. I can't remember. I have to look. So I have 5 $100 gift cards. Let me count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. So 3 weeks in a row, we'll give away one, and then the last week I'm giving away two to two different people. So you can enter the Duluth Trading Company $100 gift card giveaway by either leaving us a review on iTunes, and even if you've already left one, you can update your review, and it will move it to the top and get you in the running. Or you can buy the Firearms Radio Network Android app, give us some feedback on that, let us know how to improve it. So it's firearmsradio.tv/Android, I do believe. You can search for FRN in the Google Play Store. So those are the two different ways. You leave us an iTunes review or purchase the Android app. And if you purchase the Android app, you have to send me a copy of your receipt, because otherwise I don't know you've done it. So send me a copy of your receipt if you buy the Android app. And if you do both, I'll get you two entries. So I drew a name, and this week, and it happened to be an iTunes reviewer, was Gear Dad. So Gear Dad, congrats. You won the $100 Duluth Trading Company gift card. Very well done, your part. And, thank everyone else who left a review on iTunes. You're still in the running. Let me see here. Gear Dad, he wrote... Let me find his review here. He wrote, entertaining and on target, 5 stars. Great podcast. Learn something new each episode. Keep up the good work. Yeah, head on over to iTunes, leave us a written review, and you can get $100 to buy yourself some manly clothing. And I'm also still looking for an assistant producer co-host for this show, Gun Guy Radio. Email me at jake@firearmsradio.tv if you're interested. I really need someone with experience with audio editing and, some knowledge of WordPress. And, of course, you need to be a gun guy. Well, this week I had the pleasure of interviewing Brandon from FFL123. And he outlines pretty much the process of getting your very own federal firearms license. Brandon Maddox, the owner of FFL123 and Dakota Silencer Company, is on the line with me. Hey, Brandon.
How are you, Jake?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for joining me. I wanted to have you on to talk a little bit about FFLs and how maybe a regular Joe like myself could get one, or maybe if I had aspirations for a business even. So
Sure, absolutely.
Seems like you're the guy to talk to with FFL123.com, but you're also the owner of Dakota Silencer. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Dakota Silencer?
Sure, we're a Class 3 dealer. Our original location was in South Dakota, and then we expanded into North Dakota, and then we also expanded into Nebraska, and then most recently into Wyoming. And mostly what we do is just silencers. So that's, of course, it's considered a firearm by ATF, but that's pretty much all we do. We do some short barrel rifles, some machine guns, but probably 99.9% of it's silencers.
So how did you get into the silencer business?
Yeah, that's a good question. My father-in-law, he's a pharmacist like myself, and he owns a pharmacy about 45 minutes from here, and he has an FFL there. And I kind of saw firsthand the benefits of having access to an FFL.
Wait. He has an FFL out of the pharmacy?
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't do too many transfers.
Wow, that really is the West. It's like the general store, right?
He kind of inherited it from his brother-in-law. When he got rid of the store, the guy was a gun nut, so he kind of got it. But my father-in-law is kind of a gun nut too. So I started varmint hunting when I moved out here. I'm originally from the South. I'd never heard of a prairie dog, so I moved out here and started shooting them. And for whatever reason, I had the idea years ago of using a silencer to shoot prairie dogs and loved it. And the process of me buying it was very difficult, cumbersome, and I wasn't treated very well. So I thought, you know what, maybe I could do this on the side just to make some part-time income. And it's kind of exploded from there. Everyone else out here agreed that if you shoot coyotes and prairie dogs with a silencer, that's the way to go. Sure.
Yeah. You can stay out there a little longer before they get wise to you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Plus the prairie dogs are so stupid. It's more to protect your own ears and talk to your buddies while you're shooting.
Right. Well, tell me a little off topic here. Tell me about your prairie dog setup. What do you like to take out?
Yeah, I use a 22-250. I mean, it goes back to the silencers. Now, I used to use 223, the AR platform or a bolt, because the ammo was cheaper. But here's what I found with putting a silencer on there, you get less recoil. So before, when I would use a 22-250, I was shooting out so far off of my bench that the scope would jump just enough that you couldn't see where you missed and how to adjust your sights. But when you use a silencer, having that extra weight on the end, you don't get much recoil, so you can actually see where you missed or if you hit, and then take another shot. So really, the benefit of having a silencer has made me upgrade the powder in that thing so I can reach out there a little bit further. Plus, if you're not from out here, I'm not originally from here, but the wind is horrible, and to have 22-250 with that extra powder really helps hit what you want. But I have a custom build, but I do like even a Savage 22-250 works well. Just maybe get a new stock for it and get it glass bedded. But yeah, I prefer a Bolt 22-250.
Very cool. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's addictive.
Sure. So
it's expensive.
So tell me a little bit more about yourself. You said you grew up in the South. Where are you originally from, and when did you originally get into firearms?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was born in Alabama, raised in Atlanta, and then moved to North Carolina. Interestingly enough, my parents, I wouldn't say they were anti-guns, but they just, they were in the house, but we never really shot them or anything. But my uncle and my grandfather both like guns, so we got into, dove hunting, just little stuff like that. But I would say that when I started dating the lady I ended up marrying, who's from out here, I got into it more just because of the pheasant hunting. So I lived in Florida then, and I would practice trap shooting just so that when I came out here, I was, not a complete buffoon shooting pheasants. And that's when I got into shooting trap and then pheasants. And then once I actually moved here, then that's when I got into the varmint hunting. So, so really not to an older, not till I was older till I actually got into the firearms more. But I think it was in my blood.
What? Very cool. So you're out in the Dakotas now and running Dakota Silencer. I guess you saw there's a need for a process or a guide for acquiring your own FFL.
Exactly, yep.
I guess let's kind of go back to the basics here on FFL. People hear the term a lot. I know we have a lot of new gun people that listen to the show. So what is an FFL?
Okay, sure. So basically, the acronym stands for a federal firearms license, and it's issued by the ATF, the federal government, and it's going to allow you to buy and sell firearms. It's not a carry permit. A lot of people think, they get confused with carry. There is obviously no federal carry permit, but it's, in simplest terms, it's just a way to document the buying and selling of firearms, doing background checks and things like that.
So anytime you buy a handgun, a rifle, or like an AR-15 lower receiver, you have to run it through an FFL because it's a serialized controlled item.
Absolutely.
There's also different types of FFLs. How many are there? There's like 7 or 8?
Yeah, exactly. It gets a little confusing because some people will include the CNR, which is more for antiques. It's more for collectors. So if you just look at the non-collectors, there's like 8 different ones. The most popular one really for most people is going to be the Type 1. And with a Type 1 FFL, you can buy, sell, you can do transfers, you can do repairs as a gunsmith. And then probably the second most popular, which I kind of like, is 07. And the Type 07 allows you to buy, sell, repair, also assemble and manufacture. So it's basically just the same as the 01, but it adds in the ability to assemble. The ATF considers assembling of firearms to be manufacturing. So if you take an AR-15 lower and upper and marry it up as one, they consider that assembly, and you technically need an 07 license to do that.
What about ammo? Do you have to have an FFL to buy and sell ammo?
In most states, you don't. Federal law says no, so technically anyone can buy and sell ammunition. Now, some states are, like if you look at California, Massachusetts, they're saying to order bulk ammo online, you need to have an FFL, so they're trying to push it through FFLs. But federally, there's obviously restrictions if you're going to make ammunition. You could use an 07 for that or an 06, but actual buying and selling of ammo, you don't actually need a federal firearms license at a federal level, but some states are trying to change that.
A lot of guys are maybe thinking, I buy, so many guns a year, and it might be a better method to, get my own FFL, a quote unquote kitchen table FFL where I just run it on my home. Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that's probably 99, maybe 95% of our customers. Is kind of why I went into it. The tough part is the ATF says they don't issue it for personal use. So if you fill out all the paperwork and you tell ATF I only want it for personal use, they're not going to approve it. Really, they want to make sure you're helping other people, and they want to make sure that you're truly sort of engaged in this whole concept. I guess my response to that is if someone has an interest in firearms themselves, typically they have friends that are as well. So if you're willing to do transfers for other people, that counts as well. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to make money. Oddly enough, I've never charged for a firearms transfer. I mean, I told you we do all class 3, but I kind of have a tip jar and, throw money in there if you want to do transfers. So I can always say I've never charged to do an FFL transfer. But, as long as it's not 100% personal use. The interesting thing, too, is even when you renew your license, ATF doesn't really know what you've done with that license because it's all documented and kept at your premises. So a lot of people have this concept that, well, if I buy a lot of guns for myself, I'll be in trouble. Well, there's really no way they would know unless they did an inspection. And the average inspection is like once every 30 years just because there's so few agents. We have one agent in South Dakota and we have 500 FFLs. And she also does the explosive side. So it's, I'm not saying you wouldn't be inspected, but, you're not going to get your license revoked because of, too much personal use.
Okay. You said explosives. What would I need for dynamite?
Oh, yeah. Now, that one I don't know as much. That one's sort of the other side, the non-firearm stuff. But it is funny that the same examiners do it because I got some friends that do fireworks, and they say, wow, you got the same ATF examiner I do, which, it's interesting.
Right. Okay, well, let's do a hypothetical here. Let's say I want to get an FFL for my personal use and my friends. So I from what you're saying, I need to frame that as I'm doing kind of a from-home business. Do you suggest people maybe register a business name with the county?
That's a good question. So I should step back. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't want to encourage people to be dishonest and say that, in other words, if they were only getting an FFL for personal use, I would want to encourage them to, say something opposite. I think one way to frame it up is that once you have an FFL, you find opportunities and it sort of could potentially grow, if that makes sense. Like when I went into it, I thought I might just do transfers for a few folks. And then now I'm, one of the biggest silencer dealers in the country. So, go into it with an open mind. You don't necessarily have to know exactly what you want to do, but the idea that it could spring into something else is something you should at least think about. So your question about, the business part, registering, it gets interesting because the struggle we have now is the wholesalers. So if you think about it, every wholesaler has limited inventory because guns are so popular. So the wholesalers are becoming picky about who they will do business with, which I know sounds crazy, but not every wholesaler likes the whole idea of you getting an FFL, putting it in your own name, and trying to set up an account with them. There's some struggles with that. So, and what our guides do is we say, hey, there is advantage. You don't necessarily have to, but there could be some advantages to you. I already had an LLC set up, a limited liability corporation. So for me, it was a no-brainer. But instead of me having put it in my name like Brandon Maddox and then had the FFL set up that way, I could have. It have been fine, but it's almost better maybe to think of Brandon's Guns or Brandon's Firearms or something like that. And, even to go a little bit deeper, which might be outside of this discussion, but sometimes you have to be careful about what name you put in there because, with Google and PayPal and Facebook, guys will call me and say, wow, I wish I had known that using the word firearm or guns was going to keep me from promoting my business. I wouldn't have used that name. So there's a lot of things you have to think through. I mean, I'm candid with people that I was actually fired from employment at a job because of this. I was a sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, and I covered the upper Midwest. And they found out I was doing silencers on the side, and they had a problem with that, and they let me go. So
wow.
it's Yeah, then that's another reason why I wished I hadn't used my LLC set up with basically my name. So if you do a Google search for, BMATX Enterprises, it's obvious I own it. It was hard for me to kind of deny. So there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, the simple answer is yes, you can do a sole proprietor. You can put it in your name. You can roll forward and you can set up, relationships with wholesalers. But there's a few tricks that you learn throughout the way that if you set it up a little bit differently and do a couple things differently, then you're going to have better access to wholesalers. Wholesalers, my assumption is the wholesalers, they don't want to sell to people that might compete with a local gun store that they're already selling a large volume to, obviously. But they also probably have contracts with the manufacturers that they don't sell to individuals. They only sell to true dealers. So that's why you have to sort of think about that when you set it up to make sure. So, like I said, not to overcomplicate the process, but sometimes it takes more to think through what your plans are moving forward before you just kind of fill out the paperwork and send it in. And I guess that goes more to why I created this business. I'll read online, mostly people who are not customers will criticize me and say, well, all the paperwork's free. Why would anyone use him? And I could see that. And it's sort of the same concept with the IRS. You can do your own taxes or you can hire a CPA. And what we try to bring to the equation is sort of looking at the whole picture and looking what your plans might be in the future and then sort of stepping back and then sort of starting the process from there. So sorry for the long-winded answer. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but it's also thinking about what you want to do in the future.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff all the way around. Okay, so I'm going to try to get an FFL to run on my home. Now, let's say I go to FFL123.com, or actually this episode at the end, we have an affiliate link that would help Gun Guy Radio if you guys go through. But let's say I go there and I buy your guide.
Yep.
So what is the guide going to start me off doing?
Yeah, good question. So a lot of it will be thinking through these issues, like we talked about earlier, like what type of FFL you want. Because there's some benefits to having an 07 license where you can assemble and manufacture, especially when you get into the machine gun world. Because to buy a machine gun, even as a dealer with a Class 3, it's not hard, but there's more steps. But if you have the right licenses, you can make your own, which is a whole lot easier. So really the first thing we do is we go through a lot of the different types just to help you figure out which one would be best for you. Then we're going to go through maybe like your competition as far as who already has a license in your area. It's funny, when I first looked at the list for South Dakota, I was shocked how many people who I knew, like even people on my street that had one from their house. I'm like, no way. My wife was helping me do some letters. We always promote our business to other dealers, and she was shocked that some of the VPs at her hospital had FFLs that she didn't even think would be gun people. So, look at the competition. Next thing is, making sure that you check off the boxes for local issues. So, here's what I always say. If you call up City Hall, no matter where you live, and you say you want to sell firearms out of your house, you're going to get a big X. You're going to get a big no way. And I always tell people that's hard to overcome. If you call up and they tell you no way, that's almost impossible to overcome because they've sort of put a stick in the ground. So we kind of help people because one of the requirements of getting the FFL is to make sure that you meet local requirements. So we give that's the number one reason why people get declined too. So we really spend a couple chapters just on local issues, because you got to make sure you check that box off and that your local people are fine. Because the ATF, before they process your application, they're going to call locally and say, hey, is this all right with you guys? So what you want to do is make sure you find the right person, make sure they understand what your plans are, make sure they're okay with it, and then give that number and that person's name to the ATF. Because all the time the ATF will call, and they'll obviously, usually just as luck will have it, they'll call a different person than you talk to, and then you're in the middle of something. And it's hard to, it's sort of hard to walk that back after it started. So. Oh,
you got to love bureaucracy. The right person. That's for sure what you got to find.
Exactly. Yeah. It really is. The local issue is the hardest, and that's really where.
That's something I would have never even thought of until I got into the process. So. That's a good
that's
point.
Why. So that's one reason why I say it's always. So really, the benefit of our process is we help you walk through all the same steps the ATF would, so that you're going to be approved before you even apply. Because what you don't want is them to call you up and say, well, based on the following situation, you're not going to be approved. And then on the application, you got to say, if you ever applied again, they ask, have you ever been denied? You don't want to have to put that on there, because you got to explain why you were denied. It creates another issue.
Right. Okay. So I decide what license I'm going with. I get my local issues straightened out. Let's say I'm good to go and all that. And then what?
Okay, so then basically you're going to fill out the paperwork.
Okay.
And, the paperwork's actually not that difficult. So you're just going to fill out the application paperwork. You're going to fill out, there's a citizenship form that says you're a U.S. citizen. You're going to fill that out. You're going to get your, fingerprints done because they're going to do a background check as part of that. The other thing to think about is you got to figure out who else you want to put on the license. So it gets a little confusing. So my wife is a co-owner of my limited liability corporation. So I had to actually put her on my application, even though she has no interest or doesn't want to be involved in the FFL at all. But the interesting part is you don't put employees on there. So you only put owners. Now for me, I've got 4 stores. So my other stores, originally I didn't put those guys on there who run the store for me because I didn't have to. But eventually I thought it was probably the best idea since, I've got some machine guns and silencers they like to play with. It's kind of the way I pay them. So it made sense for me to put them on a license later. So one thing you got to think through is, who else you got to put on the license and make sure they get approved. I get a lot of guys that call and say, hey, our corporate structure, the owner has a felony. That's a bad deal. So basically you fill out the paperwork and you're going to submit that to ATF. A copy of that goes to your local sheriff. They don't have to sign off on it. It's not like a silencer. It's just sort of a blind copy, just sort of a, hey, here's a heads up.
Okay, so we're talking hypothetical me again. I have, I live in town, but I made sure that, the local ordinances, I'm all good there. But, I'm married. I have 3 young kids, soon to be 4. Are young kids an issue?
No, it's funny. Oddly enough, one of the things on the application at the end that you're signing that you'll keep these weapons like out of the reach of minors and also out of the reach of non-dealers. It doesn't necessarily say how. It doesn't say 10-inch thick safe technically a safe's not even required. When I first started for my house, I just took a closet and put a locked key on it, and I used that. ATF doesn't even inspect that kind of stuff when they did the initial visit for me, but I showed it to them just because I thought it was cool. Kids are not a problem. You're signing that you'll keep them out of the reach of minors. So that could be with, a case or, even in boxes that are sealed or, just as long as they're out of reach.
Okay, because I was picturing I'd have to have like a Fort Knox in my basement or something.
No. Yeah, no. A lot of people think that. No, not at all. Like I said, when I first started for years, I just had a keyed lock, and I don't even think that was required. I could have just put them in the closet. I just signed that I'll keep them out of the reach of minors and also non-dealers. Someone else having access to it.
Okay, now I've heard this before too. Does my wife have to be on it? Like if I go to work and leave the house and she's there with all the guns,
right?
Does she have to be on the FFL?
Nope. So only owners. So if you had like an LLC structure and she was a half owner, they say a controlling interest. So if she was an owner or a partnership, but as long as if it's just you and it's just in your name, you don't. So it'd be the same as an employee. Okay. You don't have to put employees on there.
Well, okay. Let's say I have a small gun shop and a storefront. So I'm not there, but the guns are, and I have an employee there. So that employee doesn't have to have an FFL to have the guns out, be showing customers guns?
No. So typically you'll have one FFL per location, so that location will have an FFL. All the inventory in that location will be in that FFL number, and then the employees will function really the same way you will, oddly enough.
So I fill out the paperwork, and I submit it, through the mail? I assume?
Yep. It goes to Atlanta. They cash the check there, and then they send your fingerprints and background information to the FBI, and then your actual paperwork will go to West Virginia. They'll process it. They actually give you an FFL number then at that point. So if you look at the FFL numbers, like the last 5 digits are how many people have applied in your state over the years, and they give a number to each one, whether you're denied or not, just for tracking. Then it goes, after it's processed in West Virginia, then they send it to your local regional office. So for me in South Dakota, North Dakota, it's the St. Paul office in Minnesota. And for my Wyoming, it's Colorado. And for my Nebraska, it's like an Omaha satellite out of Kansas City is their main location. So each regional setting, and then it's assigned to an actual inspector who will come out and meet with you.
Okay, now that's what makes me nervous. It might make
Sure.
other people nervous, is that, how is it dealing with these inspector guys? And,
Sure.
I'm in Northern Illinois, so I would probably be dealing with a Chicago office or something.
Yep.
So that really freaks me out.
Sure. Oh, yeah. No, I was freaked out when they first showed up at my house. Hell, they showed up half an hour early, so I was really freaked out the first time. Okay, so so this isn't necessarily a sales pitch, but basically what I've done is I took the kind of the leader's guide. Like they have a leader's guide that they walk you through when they meet with you. So I have a copy of that. It's like, believe it or not, it's like 80 something pages. And then I provide that as part of my guide. So essentially you're able to read through all this information before they come.
Okay.
And it's believe it or not, it's more of a discussion. I always tell people I'm a pharmacist, so you want to make sure it's the right pill, the right bottle, the right patient. Same thing with guns. They want to make sure that you have right gun, came from the right, where it came from, the wholesaler, and then who you give it to, and you did a background check on them. It's hard for people to think this way, but there's no national database of serial numbers. So when the ATF finds let's just a hypothetical. ATF finds a gun at a crime scene. They're going to start with the manufacturer and say, where did you send that to? What wholesaler? Then they're going to call the wholesaler and say, which FFL did you send it to? And if it traces back to me, they're going to call me and say, who did you sell that to? So really, in simplest terms, we are an extension. As an FFL, we're an extension of the ATF because they don't have access to all these serial numbers. Only we as FFLs do. There is no national database. That's why you have to keep your records for 20 years. And that's why if you go out of business in less than 20 years, you have to send it to them and they scan that information in. They don't access it like a database unless they need to. But going back to them meeting with you, really the whole goal of them meeting with you is to make sure that you have good records because they may need them one day. And also they want to make sure that, if you think about it, their goal is to make sure firearms don't get in criminals' hands. So they want to make sure you've got controls in place so that does not happen. So they're going to make sure you're comfortable with the processes and you're also comfortable with the documentation. And I sense they're also seeing if you have the aptitude for that, if you understand what your responsibilities are. And I always say it's just like keeping up with a checkbook. I mean, when a gun comes in to us, we just enter it in and put the FFL number of where it came from. And then when someone leaves with one, we just obviously do a 4473 and a background check, and they leave with it. So we have everything 100% documented, and that's what the ATF wants. But they're going to go through all the rules. If you buy 5 handguns if you buy more than one handgun within 5 days, you have to submit additional paperwork. And you can only sell handguns to residents of your state, but long guns you can sell to residents of other states. And they're just going to go through. They consider a receiver to be treated the same way as a pistol because it could potentially be used as a pistol. So you have to make sure the customer's 21. I mean, they're going to go through all these types of things. That's really why the benefit of our customers of having that sort of leader's guide to read through before the ATF shows up is I find that this isn't the first time that the customer is thinking about it. When the ATF shows up, your level of discussion is 3 or 4 notches higher than what the ATF's used to discussing things. Because I remember when I first met with them, I was like, wow, it was like a water faucet. Just everything was flowing at me. And I was just trying to absorb it all. But now our customers are able to read through all this information, and now they're asking questions. Instead of saying, I don't understand this, it's more like, okay, what if this happens? What do I do? So it's more of a discussion. I know people think of, like the bright lights and they're asking you tough questions. That's not it. It's more of a discussion, and it's making sure you understand what you're getting into and what's going to be expected of you.
Okay, so we have this discussion, and there's apparently no waterboarding involved.
Exactly. There you go. And to your question earlier, I sense you were questioning them. I typically, it seems like because I'm FFL123.com, they all know me. I usually get 2 agents at a time. So between my 8 interviews and all the gun shows I've worked, I've probably met 25 different inspectors from all over the country. And I could say without exception, 100% of them were friendly. They were wanting to help me. They were, it seemed like a win-win. There wasn't a gotcha kind of thing. I mean, I've had some that were anal I've disagreed with and really clashed with, but that's just probably my style because I feel like I know the system so well that when they would try to change things, I'm like, no, that doesn't work for me. But without exception, I have found them to be very friendly, very helpful, and not trying to do anything wrong or catch you doing anything wrong. I think that really their goal is to make sure that you have the tools you need to help make their job easier in case they have to show up one day for some kind of trace.
Okay, so that initial meeting, how long would you say it takes?
It's funny. My customers, some of them the least I've heard is maybe 45 minutes because typically these people are coming from a regional location. And sometimes if they are doing like a day's trip, they'll try to make it quick so they can get out of there. So I've heard as low as 30 minutes to an hour, but I'll be honest with you, most of mine have always been 4 to 5 hours.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know I ask a lot of questions because my goal is to help my customers. But even without asking a lot of questions, some of them are very thorough. I mean, like I told you, it's an 88-page manual that they go through page by page, and they make you sign that you understand, that this is an antique and that this is an NFA, and you're signing all these things that they've talked to you about the definitions and that you understand them. Right. So it takes a while. It's a lot of information. That's why I said it's so beneficial to read through the information before they come, so you already are aware. You're just more informed.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
you're more confident. Yeah. They always brag, and they say it makes it quicker too by having someone already have read through all the information.
Right. Okay, so the interview's over. Then what happens?
Yep. Good question. So basically, here's my assumption: they don't come out and meet with you unless they know you're going to get approved, because they've already called your local officials and they've already done all their background check. They've already looked at your stuff. Most of the times they've already done your federal background check too through the FBI. Not always, but mostly. So pretty much everything's done. I don't want to say you couldn't be approved when they met with you, but it's rare. So it's kind of hard to fumble that after they come and meet with you because they talk to you on the phone. I've had some people talk to me an hour on the phone before they come. I think one thing to tell you about them coming, they don't give you much notice. I mean, they'll call on a Monday and say, I'll be there Wednesday. I mean, they work with your schedule, but there's not a whole lot of, can we meet in 2 weeks? I mean, it's like pretty quick. So after they meet with you, they go back and type up a report of their meeting with you, and that goes to like sort of their area director. He or she then reviews the information, and then they push it on to West Virginia as approved, and then West Virginia actually they print out the FFL and mail it to you. So it's interesting. There's a federal law that says ATF has 60 days to respond to your request, which obviously I love because it's a finite period. Do they always abide by that? No, but I wish we had that in the silencer approval business. We had a 60-day moratorium that they have to respond by.
That right.
So I don't know who the bureaucrat was that came up with that, but that was smart to say you got 60 days. Federal government, you got 60 days to respond to every applicant's request, and that keeps them from not following through. So typically they'll call you at about day 60, and then they meet with you, say day 65, and then usually it takes a couple weeks for them to actually mail you the approved forms.
So you're saying basically, within 3 months you could be up and running?
Oh, quicker than that, yeah. Some of mine I've gotten as quick as a month. So wow. Sometimes they'll meet with you quicker. Yeah, sometimes they'll meet with you quicker. It seems like it's based on their schedule too. If they're going to be in your area, or if you have one local, like we have a lady local here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, that she'd come over and meet with me, and because I changed locations, and my lawyer advised me that it would be beneficial to maybe get a new license, and then I kind of do away with all my old paperwork. And she came over, and I had a license within a few weeks. So
very cool. So I forgot to ask this earlier, but I would be getting a type 1 because I'm just interested in doing transfers.
Sure, absolutely.
What is the total dollar amount that will cost me?
Yeah, good question. So it's $200 to apply, and that'll cover you for three years.
Okay, that's not bad.
No, it's cheap.
So no other fees or taxes or anything like that?
Nope, it's just a one-time fee when you apply. You can even use a credit card when you apply. There's the fees like, my local police department charge to do my fingerprints, and then you had to submit 2 passport photos. So other than that, there's really no other additional expenses. Some states charge for background checks when you do transfers, but Illinois may. I'm not sure about that.
The common practice is, like $20 to $50 per transfer when you take it someplace. So I now have my FFL. I'm doing my own transfers for customers or friends or whatnot.
Yep.
How much does it cost me now? Is there any hard cost? You mentioned there might be a state tax.
Well, for sometimes background checks, but then you just pass that on to the customer. So it's not, most states don't, but some states charge a small fee to do the background check.
Okay.
It gets a little confusing. Most states use the federal system. There's a federal system called the NICS background check, and most states use that, and that's free. But then there's a couple states that, for whatever reason, want to do their own, and then they charge a small fee for doing it. So and some of them only do it for handguns and not long guns. It gets a little confusing, but the only other cost is like, I actually hired a programmer and I created an Excel spreadsheet that tracks all our inventory for our A&D books, and it meets all the ATF requirements. I mean, most people hear the word Excel and ATF doesn't like Excel, but this is programmed where you can't edit it. Once you enter something in, it's permanent, and then it keeps another sheet in that Excel spreadsheet to show you if you make any changes. So I offer that free to my customers. So most people download that and they enter all their books through Excel. I mean, I just learned Excel through school, so for me it was easier. Plus, sometimes we'll get 200 silencers in. It's easy to add it to the books, just drag it down, in Excel. But as far as any other costs, just a bound book, if you want to pay for that. Some of our locations where we have smaller volume, bound books easier for my employees.
You've kind of made this sound not so bad, not like a...
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we spent so much time trying to, make it easy for folks. And then the next step, once you get approved, is setting up the wholesaler accounts. And what we've done is we've tried to work with wholesalers that will allow home-based FFL dealers, and then we've got sales reps at those companies, so we give you their contact. Some wholesalers will require, like, say, 5 or 10 as an initial order, and I've got some friends that I've made through the years that if you call him, you don't have to purchase the initial 10 or initial 5. So I've tried to make it easy. I've also created a sheet. Gosh, last time I checked, I think it's got 25,000 suppliers for accessories, firearms. It's got all their contact information, so it kind of makes that step easier of setting up who you want to get accounts with.
Well, that's huge right there. I mean, that's that sounds like worth the price of admission for the FFL123 guide. So, like for myself, if I'm just going for the type 1, it looks like I would be looking at the $39.99 guide.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And also it has access to me. I mean, believe it or not, I do 200 to 300 emails a day. So I've got 50,000 customers. It's funny. I get emails. I had a guy email me this morning from 2009. He said, ATF inspector just called. He wants to come this afternoon. What the hell do I do? So it's one of those things that I end up being friends with most of the customers over the years. So with 50,000 customers, they email me all day long with different questions. I don't mind helping them because it's usually pretty easy stuff. So.
Right. For me, it would be providing peace of mind, and, $40 or even, so you have 3 different levels of kits, I believe. Yeah.
So I have like the, just the basic FFL. Then I have the class 3, which may not be as attractive to you in Illinois. And then I have where you can buy both of them together. So then you can get both.
Okay.
So basically it just combines those two. So, class 3 is pretty popular in a lot of states. I mean, I have bought silencers out of Illinois from other dealers up there, so it's not like you couldn't do it, but, it'd be less, some people do it. Some people get a class 3 just so they can own class 3 items in states where they're illegal. Like Iowa, you can't have a silencer unless you're a class 3 dealer. Minnesota, you can't have a silencer unless you're a class 3 dealer. So a lot of guys will get their class 3 and then they can have whatever they want.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now you got me thinking. I have an affiliate link with you guys, so,
Sure.
I put it all out there. But, I think if you're going with both of them for $55, it's still very affordable because, a lot of online guides like this for whether it's, I do a lot of podcasting, so a lot of guides for, how to use, the different Adobe softwares or
sure.
different programs, just to guide how to use this program. A lot of times they're at least $100. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because I get approached probably once a week from major companies that will say, hey, we do currently X and we want to add FFL to our, armamentarium. We bought your product. We love it. Can we hire you as a consultant? And they'll give me outrageous amounts of money. I mean, they'll say, hey, the people who are looking at hiring, they want anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 to walk us through all this. I'm like, I'm cheap. I'll do it a whole lot cheaper than that. So I almost every month I hire on as a consultant for, usually it's people that are currently in maybe military type stuff, more like aerospace, and they see the opportunity in becoming a manufacturer in firearms. So, I do feel like it's a good bargain just because it's 5,000 or 6,000 pages, our guides, if you try to print everything out. It's a ton of information. It's just been accumulated over the years.
Okay, so it's online. So what kind of, how do I access it? How do I, view it?
Sure, yeah. Good point. So as soon as you purchase it, you'll get a username and password. Your username is your email address. The computer generates you a random password. You log in and you can change it. And then all the guides, we made them where a lot of people want to use them on their iPads, use them. It works in any browser. And so there's 44 chapters in the FFL guide, and there's 15 chapters in the Class 3 guide. And it's got, some of them are specific to certain states because there's certain state issues. So, it's almost like a decision tree. Each chapter is like, okay, do this, and then if you live here, do this, and if you have this issue, do this. And so 44 chapters sounds overwhelming for an FFL guide, but really my goal is that you don't ever have to contact me, that you can just follow this flow chart, and next thing you know, you're going to have your FFL.
Oh, it's like the Cal Guns assault rifle flowchart,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
No, that sounds very cool. We set up a special affiliate link for Gun Guy Radio, so if you're listening or watching this and you think it sounds like a plan, you can go to gunguyradio.com/FFL, and that'll take you to a special link to FFL123, and of course, I'm sure if you have any questions, you can email Brandon directly.
Yeah.
What's the best contact?
It's just my first name, Brandon, so BRANDON at FFL123.com. And we have a contact page too. And also the lady that works for me full time who helps manage the Class 3 business, usually she's every day from 8:30 to 5 Central Standard Time. She's got the little pop-up. It's got the live support. So she answers all your questions, and then she yells at me across the room if she doesn't know the answer. So if you have questions, you can ask through that too.
Wait, that's a real person? It's not a robot?
No, yeah, it's a real person. Yep. You can see her picture on Dakota Silencer on the About Us.
You also have a free, what do you call it? Get a free FFL report. What's that about?
Yeah, good question. I think that some people, basically the information I've given here, so a lot of the information I've given here, sort of the steps. Also, sometimes people like a sneak peek at like what would wholesale pricing be for them. So in other words, is it worth it? Am I going to save enough to justify? So I put a couple pages of wholesaler examples just for people to, and then also it gives us an opportunity to email them later and say, hey, we saw that you download the free report. Did you find it beneficial? Any unanswered questions? It's just a way to us to capture an email address to see if people have questions later.
And I also like you have 35 pages of success stories.
Oh, yeah, is it that long? It's crazy. My wife says it's out of control, but I don't know. I told her that I'm so passionate about it. It excites me. Plus, everyone looks for their own state. I mean, if they live in Iowa, they want to look at the Iowa feedback. So if you only have 2 or 3, it looks cheesy. So, my wife, I used to have them all on one page. Oh, she used to give me a hard time, and I was like, wow, this is such a good one. It's sort of motivating to sit back and read on how many people I've helped get up and running. And it's funny when I go to SHOT Show, gosh, I feel like, I just see thousands of people I know. So it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, there's actually people in Illinois who have gotten an FFL. Wow.
Oh, yeah. I help a ton of people there. You guys got a big population there. I mean, like Texas and California. Of course, you'd think Texas, but really California is probably my biggest state, believe it or not. I would have guessed that getting into this. But we got a whole chapter just on California, and a lot of people really like that. And, of course, now they have, like the ammo thing I was saying earlier. You can't even order ammo, buy ammo. There's so many limitations unless you have an FFL. Now, my lawyer gets nervous when I talk about this, but most state laws around guns are on the individual, not an FFL holder. So there's some benefits, if you're in a certain state where, like I said earlier, if you're in Iowa and silencers are illegal, they're not illegal for a Class 3 dealer. So that's an example of, because the assumption is you could sell this stuff online to other dealers or to other individuals out of state. So that's why most states, the laws don't impact you if you have an FFL.
Brandon, thank you so much for coming on Gun Guy Radio. Is there anything else you want to plug before I let you go?
No, I can't think of anything. I appreciate you giving us the time to sort of talk about the service we offer. I mean, like I said, everyone online, not everyone, but a lot of people online that have FFLs, they get on these forums and, oh, Brandon's a scam. You don't need his product. We'll help you. And I feel like no matter what I say, they're going to argue with me. So I appreciate the opportunity to at least talk a little bit about what I know, what I do, and maybe some of the expertise and advice I could bring to people. And at the end of the day, our goal is just to make the process easier and shorter, and then we all win.
Well, yeah, I mean it's affordable. $39.99. I've wasted more money on bad socks from Cabela's than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have you on again to talk about Dakota Silencer a little bit.
Absolutely, that sounds great, Jake.
So. Awesome interview with Brandon. Thank you so much. Big shout out to him for coming on the program. And again, if you're interested in checking out his guide, you can go to gunguyradio.com/FFL. That's gunguyradio.com/FFL. And if you do purchase, it will give Gun Guy Radio a small affiliate commission, and I really appreciate it. It helps the show out. Well, we're to the sponsor segment for Duluth Trading Company. I had a listener write in about pocket carry with Duluth jeans, asking if some of the different jeans would work with pocket carry. To be honest, I don't really know because I've never pocket carried. But I started looking a little closer at the jeans and thinking about it, and they do have really deep pockets. They're like a foot deep. But the opening at the top, I think, is a critical thing to look at here. And right now I'm wearing some lined fire hose work jeans, which are awesome. I don't think you could at all pocket carry in them because the cut of the opening of the pocket is just too, either that or I'm too fat, but it's just too small to really, even if I carry a kind of a big key ring. Even if I would grab that with a fist, I don't think I could pull it out. So probably not these, because that opening at the top is just not wide enough. But I got to looking at some of their other jeans, and they have some, like their chinos are more of a dress jean. They have more of a wide side cut, like an angle cut to the pocket opening, so that might work. The truth is I just don't know, but the great thing about Duluth is they have their no bull guarantees. So if you're not 100% satisfied with any item you purchase from Duluth Trading, return it to them anytime for an exchange or refund of its purchase price. It's simple, unconditional, and no nonsense. No bull. So, I wouldn't hesitate ordering some and just trying them out. I mean, even if you order them and they don't work for pocket carry, maybe you can kind of get the feel for the Duluth quality, and maybe send them back, try a different pair, and you're not out anything. So check them out, gunguyradio.com/Duluth. Welcome to the Gun Guy Radio Product Spotlight featuring Brownell's product manager, Paul Levy. Did I get the right category manager? Oh, I'm always
category manager.
Always
it's
good.
Okay.
See, okay, we got the lower third now, so now I just need to read that.
You have no excuse now.
I have no excuse. I'm so sorry. We almost put a press release out calling you Steve Levy, so I did catch that.
Oh, that'd be a first. Yeah. Buffalo Bills, right?
Oh, is that what it's from? I thought so.
Maybe Marv Levy. There's a lot of Levys out there.
Well, very cool. So we're talking a little bit about maybe precision shooting this week, right?
Yes, we're still going to have some AR-15 parts on the next few, but I got a Remington 700 part. Modular-driven technologies out of Canada. Laszlo Clementis actually comes up with some pretty creative stuff up there. Yes. And he first came to us with his TAC-21 chassis for the Remington 700, which we've been carrying for about 2 years now. Is an all-aluminum chassis. Basically just bolts onto your Remington 700, includes a rail, basically encompasses the entire gun. What they just came out with is the light sniper stock. Let's see if I can get it on camera here, since it is a different size device. But it's an all-aluminum chassis, fairly small. The TAC-21 is a little larger, but it has a few more features. You'll notice this does not have the top rail. This would just have your Remington 700 sit in place inside the chassis, thus keeping everything fairly lightweight. And it does include quite a few features for being a $399 item. That's pretty much in line with a lot of just traditional stocks. Comes with a bipod stud, accepts AI magazines. So basically you're buying a bottom metal and the stock at the same time. And the big selling point is that it accepts AR-15 stocks, collapsible stocks, and then AR-15 pistol grips. And they do sell a adapter, so you can put on a fixed stock. We'll be carrying that fairly soon. Right now we just have the LSS itself that accepts collapsible stocks. So really pretty cool. For $399, you get a bottom metal that accepts pretty much the standard magazine, detachable magazine, for short action Remington 700s. I should say that this is just for short actions at the moment. They're probably working on a long action version.
Well, that blows me away. I mean, that opens up your Remington 700 to accepting pretty much any pistol grip butt stock combination you want, just like an AR-15. And there's so many. Lately, precision style rifle, adjustable, cheek weld stocks and everything else for the AR-15. So you could really,
and that's what the original TAC-21 did. But the TAC-21 was by no means a light chassis. This one is about a pound and a half, a little over that. So by the time you put on a grip and then a stock, you're about 2 pounds, which is relatively lightweight for an entire stock system that accepts detachable magazines, which is, again, a nice feature. And also, you can just drop in your action. You could bed it if you want, but since it's aluminum, it's not entirely necessary. And, of course, it's free-floated. It's really intended for those short 16-inch Remington 700s that AAC is putting out now. And then it's really a handy little gun then. Definitely pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. Get a little silencer 700 put together there. That'd be pretty cool.
There you go. It's a nice part. Again, it comes with a bipod stud installed, and then they also sell rail attachments. So if you did want to install some rails there, you could. But it's pretty much ready to go. AR-15 parts are by no means rare, so you can toss on whatever you have or find some, of course, that brought else.
And you can have your 700 now be part of your black rifle collection, really. I mean,
there you go, pretty much. And you know what? You can also put a folding stock adapter. Those are out there on the market.
Sure. You
can do a lot with it. So, and all for $399, which is pretty sharp for what you're getting here.
Now, so is this an FFL item or not?
No, it's not. It's just a chassis. It'd be considered a stock, just like anything else.
So, so what part on I'm ignorant here. What part on a Remington 700 is the FFL control item?
On the 700, it's the action. So where the bolt resides and then the barrel is attached. That's a serialized part on a 700. So basically what you do to install this is you take out the bottom screws on your 700, pull out the action, the barreled action with the barrel, and the trigger. And then you just drop in the action, which would have the trigger here. The trigger, of course, just go right into the trigger guard. Would set in there. There's the recoil lug where the action is really held in place, so it's not moving. and then it's just 2 screws, a screw here and a screw there, and you're set up.
So when you pull all that out, does the trigger group stay attached to all that?
Yes, the trigger group is just retained at the rear of the action on the 700.
So it sounds like a really easy swap.
Yeah, if you got a factory 700, just take off your stock, buy this, throw it in, bolt it in. You'd probably want some sort of thread locker on these 2 screws here, but really pretty simple.
Wow, very cool. Well, we'll have a direct link in the video here, or if you're listening on the podcast, we'll have it in the show notes. And we've started a new giveaway series. So last week gave away for the month of November, and so this will be for the month of December. So December 22nd, we'll be giving away 2 items, and it's a secret because they're the last 2 items we talk about. So, but they're very cool. They're AR-15 related, and they both something that I would be proud to own. So,
yep. I'm a fan of both.
Yeah, So it'll set you up. Let's just say that you'll be pleased. Very cool. Well, to enter the weekly giveaway, you can go to gunguyradio.com/winner. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for sharing with us Remington 700 chassis system from Modular Driven Technologies.
No problem. Thanks, Jake.
All right, Paul. We'll talk to you soon. All right, well, we're to the Brownells giveaway segment, and as you may have heard in the last few episodes, we're changing the giveaway format to a monthly giveaway instead of a weekly giveaway, but we're still giving away roughly the same dollar amount. If not, we're actually giving away a little more than we have been. So we're taking care of you guys, but we're doing it just once a month instead of 4 times. But generally, it looks like we're going to give away 2 products to the same person, so you win even bigger. So you can subscribe to our email newsletter list. This is going to get you in the running for the giveaway. Anyone in that list is eligible. So gunguyradio.com/winner, or the upper right-hand corner of Gun Guy Radio is how you can enter or sign up for our email newsletter list. So December 22nd, this is the next giveaway. We're giving away the Midwest Industries AR-15 Gen 2 SS Series handguard. It comes in black or flat dark earth, and comes in lengths from 7-inch all the way to 15-inch. And you get to pick which one you want. So how cool is that? And then we're also giving away the Brownells Critical Tools Kit that has pretty much everything you need for putting together your AR-15, all the main things, all the main tools, your action block to put it in the vise and everything, your barrel wrench, and some handy, a real handy punch, the takedown pin punch, I think is what it's called. No, it's a bolt catch release punch, something like that. Again, I apologize for my voice here; it's giving out. Yeah, big thank you to Brownells for doing these awesome giveaways, and don't forget to go sign up for the newsletter list. You only have to enter once. You're entered for life. You get just some awesome stuff from Brownells. I mean, the Midwest Industries handguard, that's a hot item right now. We have a really good review over on the Firearms Insider on that, and it's a great product. So let's see here. We have one bit of feedback from Jim Gill. This is from episode 94 when we were talking about concealed carry in cold weather. And he says he's 6'4", 430 pounds. He says IWB and OWB just are not an option. So I have 3 different Maxpedition packs that I carry, or a Galco Jackass shoulder rig with different holsters. Mostly carry my 23. I'm guessing it means Glock 23 with a 9mm barrel, essentially a Glock 19. Plus, when it's 110 degrees, we ain't wearing jeans, let alone jean shorts. So I dress pretty light, and with practice, the off-carry packs are very easy to deal with. On the plus side, a knife, light pepper spray, along with a wallet or money clip and phone carry just as well, and not in your shorts pockets. You were talking 22 is my favorite, is a Sig Sauer 522 Classic. None of the conversion kits work worth a darn for me. So the second part is referring to my 22 episode. But he says a 1022 reigns supreme. So thanks, Jim. The Galco Jackass shoulder rig. I got a link to it within Jack's feedback here in the show notes. It looks like it might be a pretty good alternative. It's none too cheap. It's $164. It does have a lot of options for different models of guns. Not a ton, but it does have quite a few options. But if that's all you can do, then that's all you can do. And heck, a shoulder rig, it just looks cool, right?
Ballroom jeans, fire hose work pants, and long tail tees are 3 favorites among the men of Gun Guy Radio. Duluth Trading Company has perfected the art of clothing the manly man. If you want manly comfort that's trusted by these gun guys, go to gunguyradio.com/Duluth and check out the other manly essentials Duluth Trading Company offers gun guys like us. Gun Guy Radio says thank you and proudly displays artwork and graphics designed by Ryan Cross of Hunter of Design. hunterofdesign.com.
Don't forget to use our Brownells affiliate link when shopping. gunguyradio.com/satisfaction helps out our show by sending us a small affiliate percentage. So I really appreciate all of you who have used our affiliate links. And that about wraps it up for this week. You can send feedback to jake@gunguyradio.com. Don't forget to purchase your Gun Guy Radio stickers. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes and also leave us that review to get entered for the Duluth Trading Company $100 gift cards. gunguyradio.com/iTunes. And join the NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation. And also the FRN Android app that will also get you in the running for the $100 Duluth Trading Company gift card. But you have to email me the receipt, so don't forget to do that. And don't forget to check out all the other great shows. Excuse me, sorry. On the Firearms Radio Network, firearmsradio.tv/iTunes, and check out the We Like Shooting podcast. You can subscribe to them by going to WeLikeShootingPodcast.com or searching for We Like Shooting in iTunes. And you can also go to WeLikeShootingPodcast.com/iTunes. Well, thanks for listening, and I'll see. Hopefully I'll have my voice back. I'll talk to you next week.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.